Welcome to the Wargaming Garage, and join us as today we bring all the death with Death Guard versus Deathwing. This is a 2,000 point Tempest of War match play game today between the Death Guard and Deathwing. There's a few new units been added to the Deathwing since we last did the army showcase. But today here we've got the battle grid set up. So let's look at what the cards have been drawn. So after the shuffle of the cards and rolling some dice to pick them, we landed with Search and Destroy for the deployment. So the quartered table deployment. We had Direct Assault as our primary mission. So it's hold 1, 2 and hold more. And then you've got the 2 victory points if they satisfy one of the following conditions, or 3 if they satisfy both, which is control at least one objective marker they did not control at the start of their turn, and they destroyed at least one enemy unit that was in range of an objective marker at the start of their turn. So a couple of extra points to pick up there. And then the mission rule was to not only deploy 5 objectives, but to add the 6th one in to set up an additional objective marker. So that's the mission. So let's go on and have a look at the armies. So here we have 2,000 points, I think actually 1995 points of Deathwing. They're led today by an interrogator chaplain. He has the warlord trait watched. So once per battle, he can actually just deny and just turn off a psychic power, a successful psychic power. He is a Master of Sanctity, so he takes the Mantra of Strength, the Litany of Hate, and the Litany of Faith for those 5 up invulns to mortal wounds, and then when he gets close to combat, he can beef himself up. He's got the Teeth of Terror, and he's also got the Wise Orator, so it does go off his litanies go off on 2s. So all round a pretty hardcore buffing character. We also have a captain in Terminator armor. He's a chapter master, so we give him rerolls to hit, and he's got the Rights of War, so he'll be giving OBSEC to some of the units that don't actually get it from the Inner Circle and Deathwing keyword stuff. He's got just a straight up, he's got a Relic Blade and a Stormbolter, so relatively standard, but has got some buffing abilities to give some OBSEC stuff to units. We've also got a Chief Apothecary, so he'll be keeping things alive. Again, I know he's not got that completely illegal loadout, but rule of cool, so that's how that goes. Everything in this army, because it's a Vanguard detachment, is elite, so what you've got is 3 squads of 10 Terminators. All the sergeants have Stormbolters and Power Swords. In this squad you've got a couple of Lightning Claws, a couple of Thunder Hammers and Storm Shields, a couple of Cyclone Missile Launchers, and then Stormbolters with either Power Fists or Chain Fists. Pretty much rinse and repeat on this side. Only we've got just a single Thunder Hammer and Storm Shield, and then again same kind of thing. All the loadout is as you see it, with the Cyclone Missile Launcher, with the Stormbolter, with the Thunderhammer and Storm Shield. So moving on to the Deathwing Knights. These are in the process of being rebased and slightly touched up paint wise, but a new unit for the Deathwing. So we'll see how they fare, but they also have a Watcher in the Dark for that 4-up deny. The plan going forward is to try and get each squad of these to have a Watcher in the Dark, so I can continue that 4-up denial of psychic powers during the game. But after all that, I had some points left over. I managed to squeeze in 3 Blade Guard veterans, with a sergeant having a Volkite. So all in all, should be interesting because they're going to be relatively tough to shift with until those storm shields are whittled away, but it'd be forced to wound, permanent transhuman throughout the whole army, so it makes it nice and easy to remember. So we'll see how they fare in this Tempest of War battle. So that being said, let's move on to the Death Guard. So here is just under 2,000 points of Death Guard. It's 1999 points, and they are led today by Captain Typhus. As I've said before, Captain Trips. As I've said before, he will always be my captain and my warlord where applicable, unless of course I'm taking something like Mortarion, so who is currently being built. So he's a lot of contagion. He's got the Arch Contaminator warlord trait, and he's had a Man Reaper upgraded to the Reaper of Glorious Entropy, and he's also got Unstable Sickness as a pathogen thing. We also have, he's backed up by the Malignant Plaguecaster, who's currently who's got Miasma Pestilence and Curse of the Leper. For troops choices, we've got a couple of squads of Plague Marines. Again, what you see is what you get here. So standard champion, we've got a mace, an axe, and a plasma gun, and then just 4 bolters. The other squad is a plasma pistol and power fist on the champion, blight launcher, a cleaver, and then again 4 bolters. So 2 squads of 7 there, and then 2 squads of 12 poxwalkers for keeping those objectives nice and safe. In the elite slots, we've got a squad of 7 Blight Lord Terminators, all with either bale swords or axes, with one Flail of Corruption and 1 Reaper autocannon. We've then got a Foul Blightspawn, who's got the Revolting Stench Vats. He's got the ability that gives them that 6-inch aura of having not counter discharged. We've also then got the Plague Surgeon, who's had an upgrade to give him Revoltingly Resilient. And then we've also got the Tallyman, who's a new unit. Again, he's being sort of rebased and slightly tarted up, and he's got the Tollkeeper relic. So having those sort of +1 to hits and rolling him along with the Terminator squad or the Blight or the Death Shroud squad, who are also in attendance, should hopefully keep them on the straight and narrow and help do some damage. We've also got in fast attack 2 bloat drones, both with spewers, and 2 blight haulers with missile launchers and multi-melters. And then for a bit of transport, we've got the Rhino, and then for a bit of heavy support, we've got the Plague Burst Crawler. So a couple of tweaks to this list. We'll see how it goes. There's a couple of things I'm working on for an ITT coming up next year, so we'll continue to run a similar list to this for the Death Guard until we get around to that. But we'll see how it fares. So that's the armies. So let's go and have a look at the table. So here's the table. The mat I think is from Game Mat EU with some GW terrain on there from that the Frontier set, which has been expertly painted up by Hobo Joes Commissions. So I highly suggest you go and check him out. He does some great work. So please go and find him on Instagram or Facebook. I'll put a link to them in the description below. There's also some GameMat.eu terrain with the desert, the rocky bases I think it's called. Again, I'll put a link in the description below. So, and then just some Minotaurium containers and some sort of hills and trees for some dense cover. So in terms of the terrain, we won't be able to go through this. This is going to be a building, but we are going to count these as ruins for units to go through and in. This is going to be a straight line of sight blocking terrain. Although there are entrances through this, we'll count this as one big block that you can't go around, same as that one over there. Again, there'll be a set of ruins and the barricades being what they are. There's a couple of dense areas around the board as well for the -1 to hit, and some of the crater areas as well for the movement. So all in all, that's the table. Please do feel free to leave any feedback around the table layouts. We do try our best to try and get some half decent looking tables set up that you think you'd be happy to play on. But any feedback is obviously always greatly appreciated. So that is the table setup. So we'll get the deployment zones all marked out and get some objective markers down. So we will see you after deployment. So the Death Guard won the roll off, and here we are after deployment. The Death Guard have sort of castled up a little bit in the middle with a squad of Plague Marines and a Blight Spawn inside this Rhino, and a squad of Death Shroud in Deep Strike. So we've looked to, one of the main missions point scoring parts is controlling an objective you didn't control at the start of your turn. So looking for a couple of early strikes here with that objective and this objective here inside their own deployment zone. They won't necessarily get this one the first turn, but there's certainly several, if they do manage to get the first turn, that they can be controlling and get some early points on the board. For the Deathwing, one of the squads of Terminators combat squadded to leave this home objective secure, whilst the second part of that squad looks to move out. The Blade Guard and one of the squads are down this sort of right hand flank, with then everything else castled up in the middle here, with the Interrogator, Chaplain, Apothecary and Captain all in support, with the squad of Knights in Deep Strike. So you can see there's the objective markers have been set down pretty much across no man's land, with one in each home deployment zone. So one there, one in the centre, and we've come around one behind here and one over here. So there's plenty of options for both armies to go for. So all that being said, we now need to roll off for first turn. So I'll be using the red dice for the Death Guard and white dice for the Deathwing. So let's see who gets first turn. Oh, okay. Okay. So it's Deathwing with turn 1. So just during the command phase for turn 1 for the Deathwing, there's a couple of things we need to do. First off, the captain will be putting all the rerolls onto this squad of Terminators here. Just need to roll for the litanies for the chaplain. So we'll go for the Litany of Faith, which fails, and we'll go for the Litany of Hate, which goes off. So drawing the cards for the first round, we get Blood and Guts, Investigate Sight, and Assassination. Okay. I think I am going to burn a CP to get rid of one of these. I think in all probability I will probably burn Investigate Sight because it's going to be difficult to do this early on. And we get no prisoners. Okay, so on to the movement phase. So at the end of the Deathwing movement phase, it took a little while thinking about what I wanted to do, but basically managed to get onto this objective over here with the Blade Guard, also to this central objective here with this big squad of Terminators, moving the Captain, the Interrogator Chaplain and the Apothecary up in support. Shuffled these Terminators around to get line of sight on some of the viable targets in front of them, and just spread this squad out around here to do some semblance of some deep strike protection in the back lines here. This squad advanced and got a 5, reduced down to an 8, obviously coming out of the crater. So all in all, not bad. So we fired some of the bolters that were in range of this squad into the Blight Haulers, causing no wounds whatsoever. So we'll move on to the crack missiles. I want to try and clink away some of the high wound stuff. So okay, but it does wound. And that is going to be -2. And -1. Fails anyway. So D6 damage for 3 reduced to 2. So that's 2 wounds off one of the Blight Haulers so far. So rinse and repeat with this squad, only this time we're going to split fire a bit. The bolters will have gone into the bloat drone, which has caused a couple of wounds so far. So we're going to fire the crack missiles into the bloat drone. Now it did move, so as far as I can see we're hitting on 4s. But we are under the watchful eye of the chapter master, so we're re-rolling. So the first one's into the bloat drone. That's a good job with re-rolling. Okay, so 1 hit, 3's to wound, and it wounds. -2 becomes -1. So that saves. So now if we rinse and repeat again into one of the Blight Haulers. Blimey. Okay, 2 hits this time. Okay, no wounds. Okay, so with pretty much nothing left to fire at, the only thing to fire would be the Captain himself, which will go into the Blight Haulers. And then 5's to wound. 3 wounds come through. So we can clink some more off of this Blight Hauler. So 3 wounds, and 1 more goes through. So that marks the end of the Deathwing turn. Just getting those exploratory forces out into the mid-board, making them pretty hard to move if we can, and making some advancements towards these no-man land objectives. So with that, let's see what the Death Guard want to see what their orders are from High Command. So aside from a CP gained for both sides, we will draw the cards. So extend battle lines, blood and guts, and assassination. Okay. I think based on that we're going to burn assassination and spend the CP we've just gained for overwhelming firepower. Okay, let's on to the movement phase for the Death Guard. At the end of the Death Guard movement phase, we've advanced a couple of units like this Plague Marine squad, but left the other one inside the Rhino with the Blight Spawn and brought it up over the objective. It still doesn't take it off of the Terminator, the Deathwing yet, because obviously the Terminators are OBSEC and this unit isn't, but it's certainly going to start to contest it if they, if the Plague Marines start to pile out. The Tallyman put his tally onto the Blight Lord Terminators and everything else. We advanced the Pox Walkers to get within range of that objective and just moved the Blight Haulers up, but advanced both the Bloat drones into, unfortunately that one was not in range but is now sitting on that objective. So that all being said, we've managed to move on to 1, 2, 3 objectives, albeit that will be not held. We're starting to move our way towards this no man's land objective 2. So that being said, we can move on to the psychic phase, which will just be Miasma of Pestilence onto this Blight Lord Terminator squad, giving them -1 to hit, which does not go off. Am I bothered about spending that CP? No, I don't think I am right now. Okay. So with that, we'll go on to the shooting phase. So starting with a squad of Blight Lord Terminators, they're the only ones that can see really into that far squad of Deathwing there. But only 3 of the bolters are in range. So they're hitting on 2s because of the Tallyman. And rerolling 1s because of the Lord. 6s to hit, score an additional hit because of the Tollkeeper relic. So not done too badly there. Because of transhuman, anyway, it's strength 4, toughness 4, but everything will be transhuman on the Deathwing. So force to wound. So that's 8 2-up saves, of which 1 takes 2 wounds. Okay, leaves him 1 wound remaining. So I'll put that one over there. And then on to the Heavy Reaper Cannon. So he did move, but with the Tallyman giving +1, he's back to hitting on 3s. Rerolling the 1s. And 6s explode. Forced to wound because of transhuman. So 3 wounds, -2 becomes -1. And polishes off that 1 Terminator. So 1 down in that squad. So moving on to the bloat drone that advanced up here, it's got assault weaponry, so it's going to put both of those spewers into the Deathwing squad. So 2d6 for 4. Again, wounding on 4s. I'm rerolling 1s because it's a plague weapon. So 2 wounds, -2 becomes -1. I say -1, sorry, becomes minus nothing, so 2 ups, which they're fine. And now, really onto these Blight Haulers. Everything from, let me have a think about where they're going to go. Yeah, everything from this squad here is going to start whittling into this central squad here. So we'll start with the missiles, the 2 crack missiles, both hit, wounding on 4s, 1 wound, which is fine. And then the melters, 2 multi-melters each, or 3 hits. They're wounding on 4s. That's 2 wounds onto the storm shield. Okay. So the first one and the second one. Okay. That kills 2 in that squad. Okay, so looking at there, that concludes the shooting phase. There's nothing else left to shoot that can see anything. We've got advanced units. We did fire the Rhino off camera into the Terminators, doing nothing as suspected. So it's whether we want to charge. The only eligible charge really is going to be the Blight Haulers into the Terminators to try and tie them up. Into the Terminators and this chaplain, but to tie them up. So I think okay, so either way I'm looking at this, I think we've got a couple of choices here, tactically thinking about what to do. If I leave them here, there's every chance they'll get a counter charge from probably this squad here, to be fair. Whilst this squad of Blade Guard move around, I would imagine that to be the case. Then with this squad here, if I do charge them in, I am looking to then possibly, I could leave that, sacrifice 1 or 2 Terminators staying on the objective, stringing the rest around as best I can to get as many attacks on here. But either which way, I'm looking at a counter charge either in the following turn. If I don't, no matter what I do, I've only got a limited amount of attacks on this unit. Then am I throwing them away too early? If I don't do something, then I've got the option, the headache of the Deathwing being in a position to slingshot their way up the table and being here when it comes to it. But then I do have, from a Death Guard perspective, the ability to have these Blight Lords and the Captain bring themselves into some kind of charge range if this unit is wiped out. So that's what I'm kind of having to get my head around at the moment. No, I've decided to leave it. Well, whether that's a good decision or not, decided to leave it and potentially use one of them, or run the risk of losing one of them as potential bait up the table. So let's see, that being marking the end of the turn and end of the battle round. We have achieved that. We have extended our battle lines. I'm going to leave Blood and Guts in play. That's a lot to go through. I think I might be, my concern about this one and this one is I'm sacrificing. It's going to take a lot of firepower, a lot of stuff to get through these units. One unit you could target would be the Blade Guard because of its minimum squad size, only being 3. The rest I've got a lot to get through, a lot of wounds, 30 odd wounds to get through on most things. And I think it's going to be a struggle to sacrifice these when there's other potential orders that will come through. So I am going to burn both of those into my burn pile. The Deathwing, we've already started making inroads into no prisoners. I think I can probably score that in this, potentially score that in this second round. And Blood and Guts, again, maybe. So again, I've got a lot to get through there as well, in melee as well. Again, am I sacrificing points for the 5 points? So I think, as much as it pains me, I think I'm going to keep no prisoners, but I'm going to burn Blood and Guts as well at the end of that turn. So there'll be 2 cards to draw for the Deathwing as we go into turn 2. So going into Deathwing turn 2, we score the full hold more on the primaries because we're holding 1, we're holding 2, and we're holding 3 to the Death Guards 2. So we are on that hold more. So if we just move that to one side and we pull 2 cards, no retreat, no surrender, and secure no man's land. Okay. So at the end of the Deathwing movement phase, we've brought this squad of Terminators up, did a normal move. We brought this squad of Terminators round to get some line of sight with the missile launcher onto the bloat drone. We've moved this squad of Terminators round. In the command phase, we put the re-rolls onto this squad here, and the chaplain rolled a 6 and a 5 for his litanies of Litany of Hate and the Mantra of Strength, which both went off. And then at the end of the movement phase, we brought back the 2 Storm Shield Terminators because of the Chief Apothecary, and the Deathwing Knights moved over here looking for that 9-inch charge into the Poxwalkers to see if we can then take them out and then claim that objective for ourselves. Off camera, the PBC, I'd noticed I hadn't fired it, so I did go back and fire it. It rolled a 4 for its mortar fire, only then managed to make 1 wound, but it was saved on the 6. And then with the heavy slugger, it did 1 wound again, which was saved on a 3. So all resolved there. Everything's back to normal. Apologise for that being slightly out of sync, but I did manage to catch it before I went too far. So that being done, we'll head on to the Deathwing shooting phase. So starting the shooting phase with this squad of Terminators, we're going to head into, put everything into this drone. We're not too concerned about these Paper Marines as yet. We wanted to get rid of this drone. Okay. And 5s to wound. And 2 3-up saves. which he makes. Onto the crack missiles, hitting on 4s because he's moved. Excellent, good start. So rinse and repeat with this squad here, but only a couple of Terminators and this Cyclone missile launcher. You can see the bloat drone. So again, with the Storm Bolters, 5s to wound. That's 1 wound, no minus, which he takes a wound. Okay. So the bloat drone has 6 remaining, so we'll go for the crack missile again. 1 hits, 1 misses, and it wounds, and it's saved. So everything from this squad is going to go into the bloat drone. I need to start getting those wounds allocated on no prisoners. I want to get that done this turn. So everything will go into that. So we'll start off with the bolters, which I'll do off camera, and I'll come back for the crack missiles. So after the re-rolls for the Chapter Master, we did 11 wounds. So 11 3-up saves. And he takes 1, 2, 3 more, leaving him with 3 wounds remaining. So onto the crack missiles. There's 2 of these. They did move, so they're hitting on 4s. Re-rolling because of the Chapter Master. Only 1 to re-roll. Okay, so all 4 hit. 3s to wound. So 3 wounds. He fails all through, so -2 becomes -1. So does fail all 3. So what's the first one? That kills it. Second one, yeah. Third one kills it. Does it blow up? Yes, it does. So each unit within 6 suffers a mortal wound. Let me just check if that captain's in range. Oh yeah. So does he shrug it? Nope. Does the apothecary shrug it? Nope. And does the shrug on one of the Terminators? Yes. So bolter shots from this squad of Terminators rang out into the Blight Haulers, putting another wound on, and then we've got the 2 crack missile launchers going to go into that squad as well. So hitting on 4s because removed. 3s to wound. Okay. Which it passes. Okay, so with that, we'll move on to the charge phase. We'll have a quick look and we'll come back to declare the charges. Okay, so the charges we're going to make are going to be this squad of Terminators into the Rhino. I want to try and get some distance on it and do my best to prevent that what's inside coming out if I can. We'll see what distance we get. It's a 3-inch charge for this squad of Terminators into the Blight Hauler and a 5 for the Chaplain. And obviously we've got up here the 9-inch charge, which I think I'm going to go into the Poxwalkers. I'm going to avoid this bloat drone because I want to, if I can, clear that squad and use it to sort of slightly slingshot my way forward and start being a pest and give these Terminators decisions to make. So we'll just roll for the Terminators into the Blight Hauler, which they're in with a 7. The Chaplain is also in with a 7. It is the sorry, that's a 10 and a 7. What am I about? A 7. Then the Terminators into the Rhino. They're in with a 5. And then the Deathwing Knights. They don't make it, so I'm going to spend a CP. And they still do not make it. Okay, so that leaves them a little bit exposed. Let's see what the rest of it brings. So we'll start with the combat here, and we'll start with the Thunder Hammers and start with the Thunder Hammers. So that's 3 attacks base and 1 attack for shock assault. There's 2 of them, and they're still under the command of the chapter master, so they're still re-rolling. So hitting on 4s, re-rolling. Okay, everything hits. Strength 8, toughness 7, so 3s to wound. So that is 6 wounds. At -2 becomes -1, so 4 ups. And not bad. Okay, so it takes 6 damage so far. So now on to the lightning claws. So again, 3 attacks base, 1 for shock assault, 1 for each claw, times 2. And this time I'm re-rolling all wounds as well because it's lightning claws. So hitting on 3s, all hit. Wounding on 5s, but re-rolling. Okay. So again, 8 at -2 becomes -1 because of Armour of Contempt. So 4 ups again. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's exactly what's needed. Does it explode? No. So looking at where the vehicle is and looking at what I've got left, I think I'm going to have to spend a CP on emergency disembarkation. So because I can then get the squad that's in there plus the foul Blightspawn set up within 6 and not 3. So I'm going to set that up and spend a CP on that and then roll off for who is scrambling out that vehicle. So there's 8 models in that vehicle, so it's 1s and 2s this time for the emergency disembarkation. Ooh, lose 3. So moving over to the combat over here against the Blight Haulers. We'll start off with the 2 chain fists that are in the squad. So it's -1 to hit, so they're hitting on 4s. Re-rolling for the Litany of Hate. Okay. So strength ×2 versus, so winning on 3s. Wow. Okay. So 2 wounds onto the demon save, which makes 1, fails 1. And as it's a vehicle, it is a flat 3, not D3. So reduced to 2. So that's 3 wounds left on the first Blight Hauler. So we've got 3 power fists coming through. Again re-rolling for the Litany of Hate. And again 3s to wound. So 6 wounds on the demon save. Actually, -3 becomes -2, so yeah, 5 up either way. Okay. So 2 damage reduced to 1 damage, so those 3 kills one of them and puts 2 wounds on the other one. So going on to the lightning claws. Re-rolling for the litany. It'll be 5s to wound, re-rolling. So -2 becomes -1, so 4 up saves. Puts a further 1, 2, 3, 4 wounds, so 3 remaining on that last Blight Hauler, and now we've got the last one before the Sergeant hits, which is going to be for the Thunderhammer. Oh. Okay, that's better. So 3 hits, 3's to wound. So 3 wounds onto the demon save. And none of them. So that's 9 damage becomes 6 damage. So now there are 2 vehicles in that squad, so do they both explode? Yes, they do. So we marked up the wounds for the mortal wounds taken by the explosion. It's put the chaplain down to 4, and it's put one of the Terminators down to 1 wound. So, but that marks the end of the Deathwing turn. We've managed to secure no prisoners. With that one coming through, we haven't failed morale. We haven't fell back, and all the units that started on an objective have finished on an objective as well. So that one's that, and we have we control 2 or more objectives in no man's land, which we do, controlling this one here and that one over there with the blade guard. So a further 15 points added to the end of the Deathwing's turn, so they're in a relatively strong position at the moment. So let's see what happens with the Death Guard as Death Guard go into turn 2. So during the command phase, we need to start drawing some cards. Both sides get a CP back. So storm hostile objective. Okay. Area denial. That's going to be tough. And grind them down. That's going to be that's going to be tough. Personally, I think I'm going to leave that one active. I'm going to burn area denial for a CP. No prisoners. Okay. So at the end of the movement phase, the bloat drone has moved round, start putting pressure on the blade guard. The poxwalkers have moved up, and then with the PBC started to block off this avenue in case the knights do start to move their way forward. Obviously they will do at some point, but now it's up to the poxwalkers to sort of try and limit that. With the PBC in the way, they've got a fair old amount to get through before they can start getting into the centre of the battle grid here. In the centre of the board, the Blight Lords moved up, as did the Plague Marines and the Foul Blight Spawn, and the Tallyman put the +1 on the Blight Lords. Over on this side though, the Death Shroud landed in an effort to put pressure on the Deathwing's home objective. So with that, we'll move on to Psychic. So what we're going to do is go on the aggressive side this time. We're going to smite, and we're going to do Curse of the Leper into this squad of Deathwing Terminators here. So we'll start with the smite, which goes off. So it's a mortal wound because it's a 7+ for 1 mortal wound. So that's 2 done already. And then see if Curse of the Leper goes off. Which it doesn't. I'll spend a CP on that because it could make a difference. And it does go off. So anything on a 4, 5 or 6 is a mortal wound. So that's 2 more mortal wounds. 3 more mortal wounds. So that would kill 1 and put 1 down to 2 wounds. and because it's another successful cast over a 7, that will actually kill 2 Terminators. So let me see if the Apothecary is in range, which he is just. So only 6s and their wound is not lost. Okay, so it does kill 1 and put 1 down to 2 wounds remaining. Okay, so we'll start with the shooting phase. And we'll do a bit of split fire with the Plague Burst Crawler. The Plague Spewers will go into this squad here, but everything else will go into the Knights. So we'll start with the Spewers for 9. Okay, falls to wound because of transhuman. And 1 wound goes, no, -1 becomes -0. So we're okay. So the Plague Burst Crawler shot in with its heavy slugger, doing no damage, sorry, did 3 wounds, but all 3 were saved. And so now for the mortar, for 2. Okay. 1 hit. No wounds. Okay. So moving on to the Plague Marine squad, the Bolter's just taken a wound off of that wounded Terminator, because you roll a 1 to save, so there you go. So now for the Blight Launcher. So 1 hit. Doesn't wound. Okay. And Plasma Pistol off the Sergeant. Doesn't hit. So what we'll do now is we'll go on to this dude here, the Blight Spawn. Okay, now I'm not going to re-roll that, that's okay. So again, force to wound. Hey, not bad. So -3 becomes -2, so 4 ups. Okay, and it kills another Terminator. Does he shrug the wounds because of the Apothecary? No, he doesn't. So shots from this squad of Plague Marines rang out into the Terminators, killing 1 with the plasma, the volley of bolter shots and plasma killed 1 and put 1 down to 2 wounds. So now we're going to fire everything from this Terminator squad into this squad, because we want to be in a position where we outnumber them both on this objective, with objective secured units. So with the exploding 6s from the Terminators, that I failed 3 of the wounds given in the end. So that killed, managed to save 1 with the Apothecary, but that Lightning Claw dude was on 2 wounds remaining, so he's gone. So now onto the Reaper Cannon. Force to wound, 1 wound, and he's fine. Okay. Oh yes, there's the bloke drone over there. For 8, force to wound. So -1 becomes -0, so 6 3-ups. And takes a wound. Okay, so now looking at charges, I think the first one off here is going to have to be the Poxwalkers, because I think I've got enough Poxwalkers to string them out a little bit to get onto that objective, and enough to then spend a CP on Mutant Strain to do whatever I can to get these Knights down. The Plague Marines will go in, as will the Terminators, as will Captain Trips, and really start to put pressure on these Terminators in the centre here. But I will certainly do the Death Shroud into this squad down here. So measuring up the Poxwalkers into the Death Knights is a 4, which goes off. Plague Marines is an I just need to roll for distance. and they've got a 6. It is a 3 for the Terminators, the Blight Haulers Terminators, which they're in. Captain trips, he needs a 4, he's in. And now the Blight Haulers Terminators. So a death shroud even. I will spend that CP to reroll. It's still not in. So kicking off with the Poxwalkers into the Death Knights, we managed to get pretty much everybody in, leaving 1 back to hold the objective. So I spent a CP on Mutant Strain, so 6s to hit will do mortal wounds and 1s will kill me. So here we go. So 5s to wound. With nothing coming through, we scored 2 6s up here, and then I've got 4 shrugs to make to see if it does actually kill me. And 3 do die. Okay. So we'll start with Captain Trips into the Terminators. He gets 5 attacks, and he's hitting on 2s, but he's hitting on 3s because of -1 to hit with the with his Reaper. Okay, it's 4s to wound, and I can reroll that 1. Okay, so 2 wounds. We'll put it on the Storm Shield, but each failed one is a dead Terminator. Okay, so 3 wounds on the first with the Apothecary. Okay. So kills the one that is on the Storm Shield, so it will kill the Storm Shield guy. Now the flail's within half an inch of the Lord of Contagion, so the flail will go in next. Hit on 3s. Whoa-ho-ho. Rerolling 1s because the Lord is nearby him. Okay. So 4s, rerolling 1s. Okay. So 2 wounds come through. Okay. So that's 2 wounds a pop. So, okay. So that's 1 wound gone through. 2 wounds gone through. So it kills another Terminator. Okay. So now the Power Fist. So now the only other Terminator that can, I think, fight will be this one here because he's within half an inch. So I'll hit with him. Okay, 2 hits. 1 wound. Goes through. Is it ignored? No. Okay. So leaves 1 with 2 left. So now we'll move on to the Plague Marine squad. So we'll start with the normal guys. We're on those ones into some more. Okay. Doesn't wound. So now we'll go for the cleaver. We're on that one. Okay, so 2 hits. We're on that one. Okay, to 1 wound. Okay. So D6 damage for the cleaver. For 3. Okay. 3 shrugs coming up. No. Okay, so that's another Terminator gone. And now on to the Power Fist of the Sergeant. Reroll those ones because of the Lord. Okay, 1 hit. Doesn't wound. Okay, so all in all, there's another Terminator falls. I think we're going to go for go for the Cyclone missile launcher. Now the Terminator is going to have to fight back. So we get some dice together, and we're gonna, I think, have to. Probably going to have to allocate them into the Plague Marines, because if I can get rid of those Plague Marines and consolidate in a little bit, then the Lord of Contagion isn't core, so it's not OBSEC. And there's every chance I might be able to just get this to be contested, maybe. So let's see what I can do. So we'll actually start the fight back here with the Deathwing Knights. So we'll start off with the maces and the flails. And after they'd fought, there was nothing left of the Poxwalkers, so they moved themselves forward 3 inches. Okay, start with the Sergeant, hitting on 3s, and re-rolling 1s because of the Captain. In fact, they're under Chapter Master, so they're re-rolling everything until the next command phase. That's good, good start. Excellent. Well, that's a cracking start, boys. Well done. Okay, so then on to the Lightning Claw guy. So that's 6 attacks. Hit on 3s. Re-rolling. Okay. Excellent. Winning on 5s. Re-rolling because of Lightning Claws. Okay, so 1 wound. And it's fine. So it's not fine, he takes a wound, so I put it on that guy there. So now the last guy left to fight will be the Chain Fist guy. 4s, but re-rolling because of the Chapter Master. Okay. 3s to wound. Okay, so it's 2 wounds. So let me just make that. Fails them both, so that kills the one on 1 wound, and it's D3 damage on the next one for 1 wound. Okay. So after the consolidation, it's safe to say that the Death Guard have taken back this objective. So they've managed to storm the hostile objective, but we haven't killed a unit. So looking at the end of that, we can bin grind them down, but we did score storm hostile objective, and we are racking up the points on that. So on to about 21 wounds so far with that one, so that's still in play. I think we'll get that next turn. Certainly have scored that one. So the Death Guard have managed to wrestle back part of the centre of the board, though they will come up against it, I think, in the next turn as the Apothecary brings a couple back, and this squad of Terminators has got a decision to make, as it could loop its way around and become a real swamp in the middle here. The Deathwing Knights over on this flank, this side has collapsed for the Death Guard, kind of. The PBC is there blocking the way, so they've got a lot to get through there, but let's see what happens in Deathwing turn 3. So during the command phase, the captain will put rerolls onto that squad again, and they need to do the 2 litanies. So we're going to go for Litany of Hate to reroll everything which fails, and a Mantra of Strength on himself which passes. Okay. So now we go on to the orders. capture enemy outpost, attempting target, and deploy teleport Homer. Okay. So as a Death Guard player, I put that head on for a moment. The tempting target, it's going to be such a difficult one to get them to decide because the Deathwing are already on one. They're not far from another that I'm going to have to, it's going to be hard work to get over there. So really, it kind of leaves this one in the middle, that's a no man's land, or obviously this one over here, which is no man's land. So both of which, this one's probably going to be the tougher one, if I'm honest. But they have got to the end of the turn to control it. And there's quite a lot to get through there. So I think I'm going to make the tempting target this one in the centre. As a Deathwing player, I'm going to burn, deploy, teleport Homer because that's not going to happen, and extend battle lines. Okay. So at the end of the movement phase, this squad of Terminators move around to secure this objective, and the Terminators on the home objective have just peeled themselves around to take line of sight on the Death Shroud. The Blade Guard have stayed where they are, and the Death Knights have moved forward onto the objective to look at a charge later on. This squad of Terminators, supported by the chaplain, has moved itself around, and then this squad of Terminators has obviously stayed in combat, and after the movement phase, at the end of it, the Apothecary is brought back two of the Storm Shield guys, and then in support, the captain's brought himself around as well. So with movement finished, we'll head straight onto the shooting phase. So in this shooting phase, we're going to start with this squad of Terminators down here, and they're going to fire everything into these characters because they're not now covered due to not making charges. So everything's going to go into them in some shape or form. I think what I'm going to do is probably target the bolt of fire into the Tallyman, and then split the missile launchers into the Psyker. So they have moved, so hitting on threes. Reading on fives. And that's 5 3-up saves for the Tallyman. So it takes a couple of wounds. And then the 4 crack missiles into the Psyker. 1 hit. 1 wound. And 1 save. Okay. So the bolt of fire, the bolt pistols managed to put 1 wound onto the bloke drone, but then the last bit of shooting will be over here, with everything going into the Death Shroud. So 3s to hit from the bolters, 5s to wound, and some saves. 1 takes a wound. Now the crack missile, 2 hits, no wounds. Okay, so that marks the end of the shooting phase. So now we'll have a look at some charges. So charges across the board. This squad of Deathwing are going to go into the Death Shroud. these knights are going to go into the Plague Burst Crawler. That's a 5-inch charge. This is a 4-inch charge here. The Blade Guard are going to go into the Bloat Drone. That's a pretty much auto in. And then here, the Chaplain and the Deathwing are going to go into the Terminator squad. I need to start getting those, whittling those down. Was thinking about charging the Captain in, but I think I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that for now. So I'll make the let's go for the Knights. They're in. Let's go with this squad of Terminators here. They're in just. The Blade Guard I'll roll for distance. They're in. The Chaplain. He's in with a 7. And then the Terminator squad behind him. They're also in with an 8. So I'll get them moved in and we'll come back for the fight phase. So at the end of the charge phase, the Deathwing Terminators have made it into combat here. The Death Knights have made it into combat with the Plague Burst Crawler. Over by the Bloat Drone, the Blade Guard are in, and around here we only got a 4-inch charge, so it's meant we've strung them out a little bit, meaning only really that front 3 can fight. So the other thing in this centre here is actually we've got the Foul Blightspawn, and he has the Revolting Stenchfats relic, which means that none of this blob here, including the Chaplain, can actually get to fight first. They don't count as charging, anything, nothing at all. So what we're going to do is start off with this combat down here. Now, just to be clear, if I sort of put a Death Guard head on for a moment, if he wasn't here, I'd let that combat play out, and then I'd probably pay the 2 CP I've got left to interrupt the combat down here and get the first hit in. Now, because they don't count as being a charged unit, or they don't count as charging or anything else like that, as a Deathwing player, I'm not concerned about the Plague Burst Core, I'm not concerned about the Bloat Drone, so I'm going to start my combat down here. So we've got 3 Power Fists heading in there, so hit on 4s because -1 to hit. Wounding on 3s. So -3 becomes -2, so either which way it's a 4-up save, of which we miss out on 2. So 2 damage becomes 1 damage, which kills that Death Shroud. So what we'll do now is we'll move round to the Plague Burst Crawler. So we're going with the maces, so hitting on 2s, all hit. Wounding on 4s because it's strength 8, toughness 8. So that's 4 5-up saves. So I'll make 3 of them. So 3 damage becomes 2 damage, which I'll note down on there. And then the flail. So again, hit on 2s. 5s to wound this time because it's strength 6 versus toughness 8. And no wounds. And the Blade Guard onto the Bloat Drone. 5 to wound. And 3 wounds on the 5 up invulnerable, of which 2 go through. Okay. So now we move over to the combat over here, starting with the 4 Terminators, 4 Blight Lords that are in combat or in engagement range, sorry, with the Deathwing at the back there. So we're going to put, start off with the Bale Swords into the Deathwing. So hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s because of the Lord of Contagion. Okay. So forced to wound because of transhuman. Rerolling that 1 because of plague weapon. Okay, so 4 wounds. And 2 wounds go through. And now the axes. Rerolling those 2 1s. 4s again. Rerolling the 1s because of plague weapons. Okay, 3 more wounds. On which they're fine. Okay, so now it's the turn of the charging unit to fight into the Terminators, into the Blight Lords, and we'll start with the Chaplain. So we've got an awful lot of attacks coming in because you've got the Teeth of Terror, so he gets +3. It's 4 attacks base. Exaltation of Rage goes off, and adding 1 to his attacks, and he's got Shock Assault. So quite a lot coming in, all hitting on 2s. Not bad. With the Teeth of Terror and Exaltation of Rage, he's Strength 6 versus Toughness 5, so he's wounding on 3s. So 7 at -2 becomes -1 because of Armour of Contempt. So 3s. Okay. So it becomes a 3 damage weapon with Mantra of Strength. So that is 3 becomes 2. So that kills 1 and puts 1 down to 1 wound. Now the Deathwing Terminators themselves, starting with the Lightning Claws, hitting on 3s. Wounding on 5s, but re-rolling. And with the re-rolls, it was 4 wounds, becoming -1 with Armour of Contempt, which they're fine. So now the 2 Chain Fists. Hitting on 4s. Wounding on 3s. And each one is onto the 4 up invulnerable. Okay. So the first one would kill the one on 1 wound. So what does the second one do? It's D3 damage. Just the 1. Okay, leaving 1 on 2 wounds remaining. So that's another Blight Lord down. So now the Power Fists. Oh. 3s to wound. And wounds to the 4 up invuln, which is fine. And now for, lastly, the Thunderhammer. 2 hits, 2 wounds. Okay, and it kills the 1 left on 2 wounds. So we fought back with these 2 Plague Marines first as the defending unit, and they did nothing at all. Failed to wound on his cleaver, and did 1 wound, but it was a 2-up save, which is passed. So now on to the champion. So hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s. Okay, so 1 hit. 4s to wound, no wounds. Okay, so now we'll fight back with the Deathwing into that unit there. So I rolled for everything off camera because there's quite a little bit to do, and basically this squad here of Plague Marines, which is where the Deathwing went into, tanked every single save. It's just, yeah, so nothing doing there. So we'll move on to the final bit, which is these Death Guard Terminators into the Deathwing. So we'll start with the flail. We roll those 1s for the Lord of Contagion. Okay. So now 4s, re-rolling 1s. Okay. So -2 becomes -1. So 3-up saves. And I'll put these, yeah, I'll put these onto the Storm Shield guy, the first one. Okay, so fails 1 for 2 damage. So he's got 1 wound remaining. And then the axe comes in. 4s to wound, no wounds. And now the sword. We roll on that 1. So all 3 hits. 4s to wound. We roll that 1. Okay, so 2 wounds. This will be on the 4-up Storm Shield. And he tanks it. Okay, good. So we fought back with the Bloat Drone and the Plague Burst Crawler, but nothing doing there. So the last bit of combat to resolve are these Death Shroud here. So what can they do? There's a lot of attacks coming in. They have a 4 attack and 5 attack base. Hitting on 2s, but it is -1. So I'm going to spend one of my CPs that's left on Vermid Whispers. So adding 1 to the hit roll. So they are back to hitting on 2s. Okay, wounding on 4s, but rerolling 1s because of plague weapons. And that isn't too bad. So there's no Storm Shield in this squad, so it is on their 5-up invulnerable save, and each failed save is 2 damage. So that is, so it kills 1, kills another, and puts 1 down to 1 wound. So kills 1, puts 1 down to 1 wound. So at the end of the Deathwing turn, they have not managed. They've managed to do extend battle lines, but they've not managed to tempting target. They've not managed to capture the enemy outpost. So it's netted them an extra 5 points this turn. So now, with everything going on in the centre here, we've managed to shut down the Plague Burst Crawler, but we have tied up, at the expense of that, we've tied up our own knights in that combat. Same over here, because there are tough units to get through. But in the mid-ground, in the middle of this battle sector, it's becoming a brutal melee in the centre here to control that centre objective. So let's see what the Death Guard draw, and let's see what they do. The Death Guard, turn 3. So at the start of the command phase, draw 2 more cards. We get secure no man's land, and we get capture enemy outpost. Okay. I think at this point I am going to burn the CP that I've just gotten to burn one of these and draw a new one. I think at this point I'm going to burn secure no man's land. Where am I? Yeah, I think I will. Great. Okay. Excellent. So at the end of the movement phase, this squad have started to move around and try and later turns try and get this objective back if they can. Everyone has stayed in combat in this blob here, but the Lord of Contagion has started to make his way this way, and we've brought the 3 characters up. Everyone else has remained in combat and pretty much remained stationary. So with that, we'll go straight on to the psychic phase, of which the caster will look to do Smite into that squad of Deathwing, which just goes off. Okay. For 2. I don't think there's anyone on a wound, so it leaves 1 wound remaining. And we'll do Curse of the Leper, which doesn't go off. I'll spend a CP, and it does go off. However, this guy here, the chaplain, has a warlord trait, the Watched, which means basically once per battle he can turn off any psychic action. There's no roll, it's just flatly denied. So question is, do I want to do that right now? Yeah, why not? So Curse the Leper is now denied. So we've got 1 Deathwing Terminator who's down to 1 wound remaining. We'll put it on you right there. So that being said, it's now on to the shooting phase. So doing some bolter little pistol fire from these characters, and it must have corroded the armour some way, but he does fail his save. So that reduces that squad down by 1. So now we'll move on to the Foul Blight Spawn. So he gets D6 shots for 2, which I can re-roll for 6. That's better. Okay, so ordinarily we'll be knocking on for 2s to wound, but because of transhuman it's 4s. And we're rolling that 1 into a 1. Okay, so -3 becomes -2, so 4 ups. And 1 takes 2 damage. So the Lord of Contagion now, he has a once per battle grenade, which he's going to throw into that Deathwing squad. So it's 3d3 for 5. Strength 4, toughness 4. So it's 2 wounds. -2 becomes -1 becomes -0. It's 2 damage each, which they're fine. Okay, so the only thing left to fire really is the bloat drone and the Playburst Crawler into combat. So we'll start with the bloat drone for 5. Force to wound. Okay, 2 wounds. and one takes a wound. So it's down to 1 wound remaining on one of those Blade Guard. And now for the Blade Burst Crawler for 7 shots. Again, falls to wound. Rerolling those ones. Oh, not bad at all. Okay, and kills one of the Death Knights. And so the Heavy Slugger, 2 hits, 1 wound. I think it's fine. There was one wound there I should have rolled, which hits, which wounds, and it's fine. So no outcome, no difference on the outcome. So we've also got gauntlets on the Death Shroud, so we'll fire those into combat too. So nothing doing with the Death Shroud gauntlets, but you never know, we've got D6 shots with each one, so sometimes it's the sheer weight of numbers that helps. So with that, we'll move on to the charge phase. So all we're going to really do is charge the Lord of Contagion into the Chaplain. So the Lord of Contagion gets 5 attacks, hitting on 3s because it's unwieldy, and we're going to cleave. So there's more damage through the attack. So it hits all but once. Regardless of anything, it still falls to wound, re-rolling those ones. Okay, so 2 wounds come through. So 2 saves on the 4-up invuln for the Chaplain. The Reaper of Glorious Entropy is a 3 damage weapon, so won't kill him if he fails one. He must make both saves, which he does. Excellent. So we'll go on to this combat here because these guys are still under fight last, so I'll resolve everything here before I then dot around the table. All that combat down here is resolved, so I'm going to start fighting back with the Chaplain. So the Chaplain doesn't count as being charged, so he doesn't get his shock assault, but he does still get his extra 3 for Teeth of Terror, and does still get his Mantra of Strength, extra attack. So it's now 8 attacks, hitting on 2s. Okay. He's winning on 3s. Doesn't obviously get to re-roll anything, so that's 3 wounds. Of which the Lord of Contagion fails one of them. So now we'll come round to this combat here, and we'll strike with the Death Shroud, hitting on 3s because of unwieldy scythes. Yeah. Winning on 4s. Rerolling those 1s. Okay. So 4-up saves. Of course. So 2 Terminators wiped from that squad, so yeah. So the Bloat Drone and the Blade Guard traded blows, putting 1 wound onto the Bloat Drone, but otherwise nothing doing. The same with the Plague Burst Crawler, but now it's time to fight back with the Death Knights. So hitting on 2s. 4 hits. Running on 4s. Cool. Okay. 3 saves to make for the Plague Burst Crawler, of which I think he fails all of them. So fails 2 of them, sorry. So 3 damage becomes 2 damage, which wipes Here's 6 wounds remaining. So now for the sergeant with his mace, his flail. Now, does wound, and it's saved. So that leaves, bracketed the Plague Burst Crawler, but still remaining, still there. So now we'll go into this combat here, and I'm going to put everything from this death. There's nothing else left to fight. It is now nothing else from the Death Guard left to fight. So I'll put these Deathwing Terminators into these Terminators because I want to get rid of those 4-up in buns if I can help it. Any help on that would be greatly appreciated. So that really marks the end of the Death Guard turn. So with the models that have been destroyed from each unit, I have managed to get no prisoners. I'm going to keep capture enemy outpost, but I'm going to burn teleport Homer. So we've only got 1 card in play currently, because I think that's going to come to fruition. Possibly not. I don't think, maybe for turn 4 or 5, probably turn 5 at this rate. But with that, let's move on to Deathwing. So basically, there's still a quagmire in the centre here. We have managed to remove a couple of Terminators from the Deathwing, but the likelihood is they'll be brought back by the Chief Apothecary. So there's a bit of an ongoing onslaught here which needs something to break. But for the time being, the Death Guard still do control the objective. They have got more models on it. So yeah, with that, we'll move on to Deathwing turn 4. So during the command phase, the chapter master will put rerolls onto that squad of Deathwing again, and we just need to roll for the litanies. So we'll do the Litany of Hate, which goes off, Mantra of Strength, which doesn't go off. It's now looking at new orders. Battlefield Supremacy, Raise a Banner, Area Denial. I don't think we're going to get Area Denial somehow, so I will burn that and get another card out. Defend Stronghold. So at the end of the movement phase, just a bit of shuffling around here. This blob of Terminators has just shuffled itself for a charge. This squad of Terminators has moved over to this objective completely and is going to raise the banner. This squad of Terminators has fell back. Hopefully can weather the storm to defend Stronghold by the end of the next the Death Guard turn, but everyone else has pretty much remained stationary. Fire all the bolters from this squad here will probably go into this selection of characters because they're no. We're going to put everything into that foul blight spawn. Get rid of it quick. Get rid of it quick, and then we'll work out who we're going to charge. So the storm bolted into the blight spawn. Right. Okay. The Emperor's finest, everybody. 1 wound, which he saves. So now the crack missiles. 3 hits. 3 to wound. 3 wounds. Okay. So 3d6 damage onto the blight spawn. Yeah, he's well dead. He's well dead. The other thing I forgot to mention was we did move the Apothecary and we did bring back 2 Storm Shield Terminators. So that's really it for the shooting. So now it's on to charges. So this squad of Terminators charged into the Blight Lords, and the captain charged into the Plague Marines. So we'll start with the captain. So the captain gets 5 attacks, hitting on 2s. Wounding on 3s, because the Relic Blade is +3 to his strength. 5 up save, which fails and kills that one Plague Marine that's on 1 wound. We'll accelerate forward after he's piling. There we go. So now we go on to the Deathwing Terminators. So we'll start off with the Lightning Claws. 5s to wound, re-roll him. Okay, not bad. So 5 3-ups. Okay, 1 takes another wound, leaving with 1 left. And now the Thunderhammer. Misses all 3 times, it's -1 to hit. And now we have a Power Fist. It hits once. It's wounds. And she saves. And now for the Sergeant with his Power Sword. Hits all the times. So 2 wounds on the 4-up in bun. So that pulls down that Terminator with 1 wound left. So now we go back into, because the Blight Spawn's gone, we can go back into alternating combat. I have fought with the Plague Burst Crawler, nothing doing. I fought with the Blade Guard, nothing doing, and then returned with the Bloat Drone and nothing doing. So then here, we're going to split the attacks. This Terminator here with the flail is going to go into this squad, and these 2 Terminators are going to go into this squad. So we'll start with the flail. We roll that 1 into a 2. 4s to wound. Okay, 3 wounds. Ugh. Kills that Terminator on 1 wound. So now the swords into the other squad. Reroll those 2 1s. Okay, 4s to wound. So 3 more wounds. Okay, 1 wound taken. Do we shrug it because of the apothecary? No. So now the Thunderhammers strike back into the Terminators. It's a good job the Chapter Masters there. 3s to wound. So 2 wounds. Now the Chain Fist. Both hits. 3s to wound. Yes, I'll spend a CP re-rolling that. Yep. Okay, so 2 wounds on the 4-up in run. And 1 goes through for D3 damage. For the full 3, reduced to 2, so that leaves the Terminator with 1 wound remaining. And now the Sergeant with his Power Sword. And re-roll. Okay. 2 wounds. No, 1 wound. Which fails. So it kills that Terminator. We just failed another save on that cleaver. So D6 damage for 3, which would kill 1 unless we've got the apothecary can save them, which they can't. So that's another 1 down. That kills one of the Storm Shield guys. You have gone. And now the Power Fist. Reroll ones because of the lords nearby. Okay. Falls to wound, 2 wounds. And makes 1, fails 1. Can we shrug that apothecary on 6s? Yes, we can. So it only takes 1 wound. So now on to the Deathwing Knights, and this is the end of the combat phase. So strength 8 versus toughness 8, so falls to wound. Ow, that's no good, is it? Right, okay, so now on to the sergeant with his flail. Fails to wound. Okay, so a bit of a whiffer over on this side. So that resolves everything there, and that concludes the Deathwing turn. So in terms of points, I've raised a banner with this squad of Terminators over here. Battlefield Supremacy is also on, and we're on to Defend Strongholds. Another 10 points for the Deathwing. So currently there is a significant gap between the Deathwing and the Death Guard. However, let's see what turn 4 brings for the Death Guard, because I think this is they tend to shine late on into the game. So let's see what turn 4 brings for the Death Guard. Okay, so we had capture enemy outpost. We only got 5 points on the primary 4 during the command phase because they don't have enough models on this centre mid-board anymore. So moving through the command phase, we've already got capture enemy outpost, which I think would, if I can get that, it gives me 5 and denies 5 to the Deathwing. But we bring it down, and we get Battlefield Supremacy. Okay. So I think in terms of what we're going to do here, in terms of the cards, the CP I've just gained for this battle round, I think I'm going to, for this turn side, I think I'm going to burn Battlefield Supremacy because it's going to be very difficult. The unit, the model with the most wounds is going to be either the captain or the chaplain, either which one. So I think I'm probably going to go for the chaplain. So I'm going to burn that one and generate a new card. Hold the line. So at the end of the movement phase, the characters have brought themselves up. Again, we've remained in combat. The way I look at it is this PBC is tying up these knights who could be a lot more full of demolition if they'd made their way here or through there. And the same with the Blight drone. This squad of Plague Marines has brought themselves round in an effort to charge, and hopefully, if things go well, outnumber these Terminators on this objective and start shutting it down. But to be fair, the Deathwing have only got 5 more points left on their primaries they can score anyway, but it will make it, so we'll see. And then round the other side, the Death Shroud have advanced forward, or they've moved forward, to start looking at taking over the home objective of the Deathwing. The Deathwing seemingly abandoned it because they've now got 1, 2, 3, 4 objectives on the table. So 4 out of the 6 belong to them. So we'll see if it causes them a problem later. But for now, the Psyker's going to start casting some powers. He is closer to the chaplain. So we'll start with a Smite. Which perils. So we will burn those dice and we'll use a CP to reroll. Okay, it goes off on a 7, so it does a mortal wound to him anyway. Do I want to try and deny that with my 1 Watcher in the Dark? Yes. Yes, I do. Which is unsuccessful. So it goes off, So he's done one, so he's got 3 wounds left, and he's now got 1 wound left. So now we'll do Curse of the Leper, which doesn't go off. So he has 1 wound remaining on that chaplain. Shooting wise, there's not much to go on, so we'll do some of it off camera with the vehicles and whatnot, but we'll perhaps come back and do this one here. Having said that, we just rolled for the Plague Burst Crawler and managed to get quite a chunk of wounds, so we'll just roll for this one with the Plague Spewers. Manages to kill 1. Excellent. It's also managed to inflict 3 wounds with the Heavy Slugger, so fingers crossed. Oh my god. Okay, so 1 wound remaining on one of the Deathwing Knights. So after some horrific saving by both the Deathwing Knights, the Blade Guard veterans, and this Deathwing squad, we've managed to whittle away one of the Blade Guard vets, and we've managed to put a wound on using the gauntlets for the Death Shroud. So now we're going to move around to this squad of Plague Marines, bring everything into this squad here. So bolters first, 4s to wound, and 4 2-up saves. No, they're fine. So now we're going to overcook the plasma. Why not? 1 hits, doesn't wound. Okay. So that's pretty much it for the shooting phase. So we're going to look at the charge phase. Everything here is going to charge the Deathwing. These Plague Marines are going to charge the Deathwing there, and obviously same over here. So we'll roll for these Death Shroud, which get in with a 7. We'll roll for the Plague Marines, which definitely get in with a 10. And then all the other characters are kind of an auto in. They can't get too far because obviously of model placement. So I'll move those guys in and we'll go on to the fight phase. So at the start of the fight phase, we're spending 2 CP, 1 for Vermid Whispers, so the Death Shroud negate their -1 to hit with the heavy weapons, with the scythes. And we're spending 1 on Trench Fighters for this squad of Plague Marines over here to increase the number of attacks they've got. There's no point, I would have done Eternal Hatred, but there's no point because of the transhuman rule sort of overriding it. So we'll start with the Death Shroud here. A whole bunch of attacks hitting on 2s. That's all but 1. Wounding on 4s. So 6 4-up saves once I've re-rolled that one that I saw. So 6 4-up saves. Okay, and that is the squad. So at this point, we're late into the game. We're about to start turn 5 shortly, so I'm probably going to spend 2 CP to interrupt. And I think I'm going to spend it here. I want to try and whittle down as many of these Plague Marines as I can. So let's spend the 2 CP here. So we'll start with the Chain Fist, hitting on 4s. 1 hit. Wounding on 3s. Doesn't wound. Good start. Then we've got Power Fists. So we've got the Power Fists again, hitting on 4s. Wounding on 3s. There's 3 wounds. Okay, so 2 go through. So 2 damage reduced to 1 damage kills one of the Plague Marines. The Thunderhammer, all 3 hit, all 3 wound, to save, and one goes through. Now the champion with his power sword hits twice, force to wound, 2 wounds, and both saved. Sorry, one saved. So killing 2 of the squad, we've got a mace and axe here, then the rest are all just pretty standard knives. So we'll get the dice counted up and start wading in. So 3's to hit, 4's to wound, so 3 wounds, no minus. Okay, and now the mace and the axe. Everything will come from the axe, from the mace. If it does go through, it's a damage 3 weapon, so it is -1 to hit. So hitting on 4s, but they get an extra attack. So hitting on 4s. Two hits, wounding on 4s, 1 wound. This will go on to the storm shield, and he's fine. Okay, so over here that actually knocks out that objective because we're left with 5 on 5. If we'd have just whittled that one more away, then we wouldn't have had to worry too much, but now we've got a contested objective over here. So now we'll move on to the characters into those Terminators. So we'll start with the Plaguecaster and his corrupted staff. So hitting on 3s, all hit. Winning on 4s, re-rolling 1s. Okay, so 3 come through. So that's actually a minus 1. So minus nothing with Armour of Contempt. And 1 goes through for D3 damage. For 3, kills 1. Okay, good start. So now on to the Plague Surgeon with his 4 attacks. Rerolling 1s because of the Lord of Contagion. Force to wound. So it's 2 wounds onto the Storm Shield because it's -3. And both okay. And now for the Tallyman. The Tallyman's attacks came in, but he's got no real weapon with him, so everything just bounced. So now we'll move on to Defenders fighting first, and we will move on to the Chaplain, putting everything into the Lord of Contagion. So with the Teeth of Terror and his normal attacks, everything will hit on 2s. So everything hits. Blimey, you want some exploding 60s there, don't you? Because the mantra of strength went off, it's now 3s to wound because it would be strength 6 versus toughness 5. Ooh, okay. So -2 becomes -1, so 4 3-ups, of which he takes 2 wounds, reduced to 1 wound, so he's got 3 wounds remaining. So 5 attacks, hitting on 3s because he's using the cleave profile. And wounding on 4s, re-rolling the 1s. Oh. So this is a save or die scenario. Do I re-roll? In fact, I'll spend a CP, the last CP, to re-roll that. Okay, so that is now 2. So this is a save or die scenario. For that, it is worth 5 points. Okay. Ooh, I have 1 CP left by the Deathwing. Let's see if we can deny them. Yes. Okay. So both saves go through. And that there was a pretty clutch moment, because that's denied the Death Guard player a further 5 points on that one. So I'll resolve all of this. All these Terminators here are going to go into these two, and all these Terminators here are also going to try and get rid of these 4 up invuln jobs. And then we've got the captain down here to try and mop up these 2 Plague Marines. So I'll resolve a lot of that off camera and come back at end of the turn. So resolving everything off camera, it took everything the Terminators had, but it did manage to remove those 2 Terminators there. The only thing left to resolve, these 2 have fought into the captain, but to no avail. So I'll just resolve the captain's attacks off camera. But I'll do it on camera, why not? So hitting on 2s, all hit, Relic Blade, 3 wounds, okay, and 1 save and 2 go through. So at the end of the turn, the Death Guard did manage to secure the hostile objective with a Death Shroud, but they haven't managed to bring him down just yet. That will happen, I think, in the next turn though. So we'll move on to turn 5 for the Deathwing and see what's what before the Death Guard make a decision about what they're going to do. So we didn't get Defend Stronghold in turn 5, but we can draw 3 new cards. Behind enemy lines, storm hostile objective, and bring it down. So looking at the state of the board at the moment, I can't get behind enemy lines because I can't get 2 or more units behind there because of the way the models are placed, so that wouldn't be scored. Hostile objectives, I don't think I'll get that either. Bring it down is possible because the Plague Burst Crawler's got 6 wounds left, so that would possibly be in play. So the state of play at the moment, with points, I've maxed out for the Deathwing on the primaries, so there's every possibility of getting that 5th point taking me to 90 points. So I need to have a very quick think about what the Death Guard might do, because currently there is near 30 points in it and I just don't think there's any way back for them. Even if they had 5 points there, if we draw 2 new cards behind enemy lines, possible, yes, I could do that. And raise a banner, I could do that. Okay. Let me have a think. Okay, so just working it through, actually based upon the cards, and I think it's time for the Death Guard to concede. At most, if the Deathwing get to 95, to 90, the most I'm going to be able to get to with the Death Guard. I could hold that objective, which would give me 5 points in end of turn 5. There's a possibility maybe I could hold that one, which would give me 10 points. But even if I scored all 3 of these primaries, which I think I could do, I'd raise the banner with these Poxwalkers here, so that's the 5 points there. I would drag and advance the bloat drone, or certainly move it 12 and get it as tight into this enemy line here, because we're only talking here, so there's every chance I can get him into the enemy lines along with these Death Shroud, and I would smite the Interrogator Chaplain, or I would certainly kill it in combat, I think. But even with that, I'd still be points short. So based on that, the Death Guard are happy to concede. It was a well-fought battle. It would have ended up really close with only sort of 10 points in it, but 10 points is still 10 points. So the Deathwing have really, really done well today. Obviously really new to running the Deathwing. Ran it at the club a couple of weeks ago against a good friend and got completely annihilated with it. But as I've been playing a little bit of practice here in the garage and starting to understand how they play, they did well. They seem pretty brutal, so hard. The transhuman is so good. And they're just so hard to remove. Death Guard did start to make a break, but the cards sort of were against them for a couple of turns. But on the whole, again, very resilient army. It was a real quagmire in the centre here as Terminators hitting back at each other all the time. Flails swinging and lightning claws trying to rip and rend through the armour. So really good, really enjoyable, and just shows how tough both of these armies really are. The Deathwing Knights, from a Death Guard perspective, you can stay over there, nice and happy. You're fighting a vehicle. Yes, it knocks the vehicle out, but at the moment, the trade for trade, I'm happy with that as a Death Guard player. And the centre here, though, that was pretty brutal. But there were some clutch moments. Him saving that, I think I may have gone all the way through to turn 5 if he hadn't have saved that second saving throw, because I would have had the possibility of another, going into the 5th round with another 5 points on the board, so it would have been even closer potentially. So, all told, I enjoyed that, and I hope you did too. So look out for more. There's some stuff coming up with part 2 of Bumblebee Point, and some other sort of match play Tempest of War stuff coming up as well. Hopefully soon we'll have some Knights on the channel too. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you all again soon. Thanks a lot.